Hi, everyone. This is Cindy. Jana?
Hi, everyone. This is Jana.
Welcome to Close Encounters episode 5. We're back for another exciting conversation. This week's topic is called Switching Gears, Challenge and or Opportunities. And we have two incredible guests all the way from the US, Florida, and in Chiang Mai in Thailand. We're so international again this week. So why don't we just, I want to introduce you to Phillip and Jean, and they're gonna share with us, and we're just gonna have a conversation about really switching gears. Like during time of COVID, a lot of people have either been forced or made their own decision to completely switch fields and what they were previously doing. And I think this is an important topic that we should really talk about, because there's a lot of fear and doubt that goes through that process. And maybe some of you guys are still going through that process. And we just wanted to share our experiences to say that it really is not that scary once you take that leap, right? But without further ado, why don't we start with Phil, and just tell us what you're doing now for both of you, and then we can go back from the beginning.
Sure. Okay, start with what I'm doing now.
Yes.
So I recently joined a real estate team here in South Florida, specifically in Palm Beach Gardens. I got my real estate license very recently and became a licensed sales associate and got a job through a personal contact. And I've been working for this person who has her own team, and she's been doing it for about 22 years in this area. I've been there about a month and a half.
Awesome. Thank you, Phil. And we're gonna go back to, because what we've, you've
Sure.
obviously doing been so different. And same thing with you, Jean. So tell us, what are you doing and how? What are you doing now? Oh, you're muted, darling. You're muted.
Sorry. I'm currently in Chiang Mai, Thailand. I was actually coming to Chiang Mai last year, 2020, February, for a meeting here. But then myself and my boyfriend got locked down because the country is locked down. So from last year, April, we are thinking so we are so bored here doing nothing. Why don't we start some projects ourselves? So from there we started a brand called InPulse. So we handpick different kind of products in Thailand, especially in Chiang Mai, with natural ingredients, including the food, the sauces, and also the toiletries and anything, and like the herbal oil, something like that. So we opened this is actually the showroom. We opened this showroom and also started the business last September. Got 4 or 5 months to prepare for that. And then from there, we now is talking to all the distributors around the world, especially now started from Hong Kong and also China, and then aiming to the Middle East and to the USA and also Malaysia, Singapore, etc. Yeah, so I think in this 15 months, we achieved quite a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That is crazy. Yes. And this is so cool to start off with what you're doing now. And I think we want to kind of start off the conversation to now going back to what we were all doing, because Jean comes from the entertainment, pop, commercial side of the business, and of course Phil comes from the performing arts world, being an agent and also presenter in the US. But I think it's to kind of talk about what we're doing now. I think it's important, and I think it's also interesting to go back to what we've all you know, when you go through that education process, you know, what we studied and what we had imagined what we were supposed to do. I mean, I was a little bit unique in a sense that I knew kind of right away what I wanted to study in school. And then I got out and got a job that I really wanted to. But, you know, it's not like, it's not that for most people. And, you know, I don't know, Jana, if you want to speak more to it before we let, you know, Phil and Jean talk about it.
Yeah, I will just make this really short. And I just want to grab up what you just said, because I knew by the age of 13, which is late. I was a dancer, so 13 is quite late as a dancer. Like a lot of dancers know by the age of 4 what they want to be, but because I never wanted to wear a tutu, I thought this is shitty, and that's why I refused taking ballet classes. And then one day I was sitting like this at the table, and my mom said, "So that's it, you're taking ballet classes because you need to sit up straight." And I went to my first ballet class, and that was it. That was my path. But I was 14, but still I think I was the only person knowing what I really wanted to do back then for the rest of my life, of course, because, you know, being a teenager, you think that's it. You're like, but so I was literally the only one, because everyone else went to college or even not, or went to some education or took a year off, and they were kind of, so for me, it was easy back then. It was just so obvious and clear that I would become a dancer, and that's it. So, but that is rare. In my class, I think maybe, I had a musician in my class. He also knew very early what he was a musician. He became a professional musician. But exactly, and that's why, wrapping up what Cindy just said, it's totally interesting because it's called switching gears. So obviously, we all had some changes in our lives, and it would be interesting to hear from both of you. What was the first, well, not only dream in terms of dream, but what was the first thing you were really addicted, or kind of what were you heading off to, and what was the education or college or whatever you had to do to get there? Yeah. Maybe start with Phillip again, because on my screen you were the next.
Yeah.
So I mean, I love this conversation specifically, and that you're calling this episode Switching Gears. I was that one of my few friends outside of my world in theater, in high school, theater, performing arts, piano, etc. Everyone else was going away to college to figure out what they wanted to do. And I knew, like Jana said, what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So I wanted to chime in about that I think many of us who seek performance started it so young that we often are, you know, it's just common for us to be going into school with that focus. Whereas, I mean, look at the setup of most, at least in America, most higher ed and universities. It's set up to figure out what you're going to do.
Yeah.
That's why most of them are called liberal arts educations.
Yes.
And people sort of find their way there, right? So my first time switching gears, as it were, was figuring out that I wouldn't seek a performance career in voice or opera, which was my degree path, and that I would go into business. A friend urged me to apply to Columbia Artist Management, known as CAMI to many people, and I got a job there. I soon became an agent, booking agent, and the rest is sort of history. So my first switching gears was leaving performance and being okay with now being on this business side, being behind the scenes, not being on the stage, making the things happen, not the person for whom it happens. Anyway, And now here I am switching gears again. So that was my path. It was similar to Jana's. I thought I had it all figured out, and I had to switch gears once, and once I was settled, yeah.
Just a really short question with him. Sorry, Jean. For me, because I mean, this is all related a little bit to well-being and mental health. My question is, when you switched sides, when you went from offstage to, well, from onstage to offstage, what was the one thing, which was the most difficult part, just taking the step off stage? Or maybe there wasn't even one. I mean, I have a friend, she was a dancer, and she felt relieved, because for her, being on stage was always a pain. She said she never realized how much pain it was.
I was almost going to say that, except I don't want to misconstrue that I was one of those people who was overcome with stage fright or anxiety or anything like that. And not to get too deep or too in the weeds about this, but since you asked, for me, it was figuring out that it was all entirely personal for me, was one. I sing for me, I play piano for me, I don't do it for other people.
Oh, okay, nice.
And my opinion is that in order to be a professional, two things are required. One, you live to do nothing but be on stage. You can see yourself doing nothing other than being on stage, whether that's the smallest stage in some basement in theater somewhere, or a teeny weeny black box that you rented yourself, all the way to performing at the Kennedy Center or Carnegie Hall or wherever it means big to you. It doesn't matter, you live to be on stage. And the other that I think is so important is that you do it for other people. It's something so giving. And I realized that I did it for myself mostly. And that's okay for me. And it's one of the reasons that I was also okay not being on the stage.
Right.
Because I can sit down at my piano anytime I want. Anytime I want.
So it's not about the performance, it's about doing it.
Yeah. And I still go, and I was attending performances all the time because it was a part of my job. And now it'll just be a part of my love, and I don't know if you call them hobbies or what you do in your free time. I never really think of it as free time. I mean, I like to go to concerts. So when they resume, that's what I'll do.
Right. Excellent. Cool. Jean, and before I let Jean speak, because I think there's also, I think culturally, right? There's a difference in how education systems are set up. Even though I was raised in the US and I consider myself Western educated, but I also have a very set of extremely traditional parents. So, going back to where I started, I went to performing arts high school in New York City. The Fame School, that movie, LaGuardia High School. Yes. Yes. And so that's where I went. But, even going to high school, I knew early on, like in high school, I knew at that time I didn't want to go performance. I just wasn't interested in sitting in the practice room for 8 hours a day practicing my piano. I didn't crave that attention of being on that stage. So I knew very early on. And I was very lucky that I selected, there was every year NARIS Grammy would have a high school program, and they would send artists to come perform for us. And then they would have the music, industry people come and speak to us. And that was my first exposure to the record industry. And that's actually how I got started. I knew right then, very early on, I was like, when I was applying for college, I wanted to do music business as a degree. And of course, growing up in a very traditional, Chinese family, my parents looked at me like I had like horns growing out of my head. They were like, what exactly is music business? Because, you were supposed to be like an engineer, or you're supposed to be an accountant, or you're supposed to, do the lawyer thing. But I'm sure that's what all Jewish families and Jewish parents will tell you too, right? And so, luckily my parents were very supportive. I think they just felt like, they don't really care what I study as long as I really enjoyed it. But they just didn't know how to explain to their friends and family like what their daughter did. Right? So
I think that's a difficult point when it comes to the arts anyways, that my parents, like, if you don't have parents coming from the arts in whatever way, that this is the biggest split they have to do, like, in their minds, because my dad somehow understood that an orchestra member has to practice an instrument all day, but he never really got to understand what a dancer is doing all day. That was something he was like, yeah, but what is a dancer doing all day? Well, training, rehearsing. Oh, really? So, but I remember, I just wanted to also pick up on the other thing. I remember before I started dancing, I used to create theater pieces. I was an art director. So, but I have a sister, so she was allowed to join the scene, but she was not allowed to take any leading part. So I was all the leading part, literally. And she was like, doing little things on the side. And my poor parents were the audience. I forced them to watch it. I think it was boring to hell, seriously. But I remember, for me, it was important that they watched it. I could have locked myself up in my room but that was, for me, the audience was totally important.
Yeah.
And I remember I went to ballet school, and there was this one boy who was absolutely amazing. He would have taken the trophies home for that school. And one day the director went up to him and said, what would you do if you would not become a dancer? And he said, math, but so quick. And then the director said, okay, bye. That's it. And all the teachers were like, oh my God, what did you do? He's the best student we have. He's going to Prix de Lausanne, and he's collecting and the director said, well, he had a choice. He had something else in his mind. It would have been pain in the ass for the boy to become a dancer. And actually, I think he's a professor now in math. I don't know. But exactly like you said, Phillip, like, if you have another choice, that's it. You don't do it. You just don't, because then sorry. I just, I like those 2 points.
I think exactly I can combine a conclusion of what Cindy and Jana just said, because Cindy made a great point about the culture thing, which is like, because I growing up in Hong Kong, getting the Hong Kong education, so it's Asian, like, cultural of education, which is like, you better be a lawyer, you better be a doctor, and so actually before I going to university, I have this chance to going to apply APA, which is Academy of Performing Arts. I wanted to be a theater actress.
Oh,
because I by chance have some, like, for leisure, for extra curriculum, to be an actress sometime, and then do the role play, drama, and sometimes like selling tickets. And I think I loved it. So I went to apply, and then I actually got the place. But because they are saying you are for your age and your education, so you need to start from a high diploma and then to degree. That totally took 5 years to become a degree graduate. And then combining the stuff Jana just said, I have a choice. I have a choice of 3 years of university. And then so comparing with 5 years and then to 3 years, and I went to apply. And then at the end, I'm a graduate of a Bachelor of Business with Languages, which is like, at the end, you can do anything or nothing.
It's like the liberal arts degree, right?
Yeah, you can go into any industries, and maybe no one hiring you. And talking of this program is the language part is I studied French for 3 years as a major, and now after 20 years, I cannot speak any French. And it doesn't apply to my career. And it is also answering Phillip as well. You know what you do, you know what you want to do since young. I know it, I reveals it, and then until now it's like, yeah, I study something that I actually cannot apply at all. Well, of course, for the business side, I take some course about accounting or human resources management, something like that. Maybe they help me along. I don't really know that. Yeah, but basically it's useless.
No, but I think, I mean, I get what you're saying, tongue in cheek. Of course, I also think that whether as literal as business or having to boil down to the basics, what some sort of transferable skill we may have learned in a performing arts degree or instrument performance or whatever it might have been. I mean, I had to do that. I think a lot of people do that for their work and to improve themselves. And it depends, you know, you knew what you could use, both in your experience from past work and your education. But you used it in a way, or are using it in a way, that now seems to excite you and make you happy and bubble and get it. You know, I had to realize I perform all the time. I'm performing every single day because I love people. So I've just sort of boiled it down for myself or simplified it for myself that I may not be on a stage per se, and I'm not singing as the performance, but I'm using these things these skills that I honed both in and out of school now in both jobs, in both fields, in ways that made me happy. And it looks like you're doing that now too.
Right. I think the point is also because of the cultural background.
Yeah.
That actually my parents are super supportive, not super supportive. Like they don't care if I take that APA choice or university, but it's in the blood already that okay, I think of myself as okay, 5 years and also spending the time and also all the tuition fee, and okay, I go to that choice. Yeah, so I always want to go back at 20s and 30s and now 40s, and I still thinking of it. I think one day I will go back.
You should. You should.
Yeah, and
totally.
And yeah, because I break that barrier already about also about Asian thinking about age. You think, oh, if you miss that chance when you are 20s being an actress, then you cannot have any chance. But because I have chances to meet all different people and also like Cindy, and then, yeah, why not? I think I can still do it until I die. I mean,
to give you
starting from now is still not too late.
Never too late. I mean, look, just to give you some word of encouragement, my mom always wanted to get a master's degree. Like she had a bachelor's degree. That was her dream. She always wanted a master's degree. She didn't get a master's degree until she was 50.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. she was like, she was determined to get one. And then I was in, both my sister and I were both in like high school. So she was like in her late 40s, 50, and she went to St. John's University, and, she was working during the day and going to class at night. It was like, she just decided like that was what she wanted to do. And then she went for it. And I think this is, this is sort of what we wanted to get out of today, is like sharing that experience, but also saying that everything really in a way is, sometimes we're forced to be in those situations, but yet we can make something out of it, right? Or in a way, It is also your choice, because it is our choice of how we want to handle our current situation, right? We can
and
choose.
I also, also super agree on Phillip about, although you don't perform anymore, but you still perform every day, like connecting with.
I mean, it's talking
people.
skills, the skills. You can use every skill everywhere, every time, all the time. The skills of like, what is a performer? The performer is not waking up being a singer, a dancer, an actor, an actress, or whatsoever. So there is something first. There's something you have to educate, and whatever you educate is already there. So you can use that, being it educated or being it there, for whatever you do. And I think that is already a skill. Like an artist is always very disciplined, is very focused, is very sensitive in a way to other people's feeling other people in the room. I don't know if you know that in Germany, like when you go to a store, it's terrible, because it seems like no one has a feeling for other people in the room. It's like they bump into each other, and it's like, hello, there are people, be sensitive, like be a little bit more aware of.
Isn't that New York?
Yeah. And also I have to say, like, going back to the topic of this conversation, changing gears is also a skill, because that requires a lot of strength, a lot of, not letting anxiety get in your way, like going from the known to the unknown. This is a big step. And a lot of people, they stay where they are because it's comfortable, but comfortable doesn't mean necessarily it's better, because they become miserable and they become unhappy, but it's still, so that already is a huge skill. And I think, like, I remember like being a dancer, dancer career is really short. And I remember when I was throughout my 20s, every year I thought, oh my God, now I'm getting old. That's it. I'm heading towards the end of my career. And then all of a sudden I was in my mid 30s and I thought, oh shit. I used to think for 15 years that I'm at the end of my career, and now I'm still in the middle. So why not change that mindset and just don't give a shit about age, and just be like, I'm going to dance as long as I want, and not looking at the end without it actually being there. So if you want to become an actress, just go for it whenever. You can do this when you're 60 if you feel like it's the time. It doesn't matter really.
It's true.
Yeah, and there's some like great biographies where you go like, oh wow, she started painting when she was 70. I don't know, I mean, there is, and I think the skills we all have is that we do listen to ourselves, and we do know kind of intuitively what we're like. As Phillip said, you're performing all the time, but what does the performing part is something that is you as it's your personality, but you seem to know your personality really well. And that's the difference between you and everyone.
Exactly.
I just about in the shops in Germany, probably. Or everyone.
No, but that's such a great point to say that we are performing all the time, and I think, again, it's that mindset. And, for us, we worked, most of our careers, we were either artists or we were serving artists. And you see that suffering from artists, whether it's a musician, it's a dancer, it's actresses, that suffering process of saying like, well, is this it? Is this all? And then and nothing else. And then the people supporting them, right? And I think it's so important to just, for me, it's even that conquering that own fear. Like I was, like when I went into the record business, I knew I was doing A&R. So right away, I was in the coolest department that everybody wanted to be in, right? Because we were the ones, the A&R guys were the one that's signing all the big celebrities and big artists,
right.
Like back in the day, my boss, signed Sarah McLachlan. That was like one of his big signings, right? Or like, one of those like Swedish Ace of Base, like this, I remember Ace of Base.
Of course I do.
My favorite.
Oh my God, I love
so he
them.
signed Ace of Base, right? And so I was like, I felt like I was the coolest, like I was on top of the world because I was working with one of the top A&R guys in the industry. And I had this dream of like wanting to do all of this. But then I was forced to switch because I was at the tail end of the recording industry. And that was when all the, remember Napster and MP3s were coming on. And so when all the digitalizing of music started to come on play, and then all the, big labels were merging with each other. And then I was working for BMG. Bertelsmann at the time basically laid off like 400 people in one day. And I still remember clearly, it was the Friday after 9/11.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes. And it wasn't, I think they already had that in their calendar that this was the day they were going to let go of these people. But, of course, 9/11 happened, and then that on top of it. And I thought my world was ready to crumble. Like I was one of them who got the pink slips. And yeah. And then you started questioning, and that was like, again, this whole process, Phillip, you chose, and then Eugene, you decided I'm going to quit, right? Like I was on the opposite end where I didn't choose to be, and you got that pink slip and you're like, what is going on? But, thankfully I was very fortunate because I was still living at home with my parents, and my parents says, just look, you don't have to worry. You're living at home. You're not paying rent. Just get yourself back up and then start looking again. And, and that was when I completely switched gears. That was when I went from the commercial world to the performing arts world, because I was then asked by a friend of mine who ran a nonprofit theater company in New York. And he was organizing a gala event that was, also included an award ceremony that was honoring all the Asian American, prominent people, whether it was in science, art, math, or whatever it is. And then one of them was Tan Dun. Yeah. And then that's where it all completely connected, because I met him at the event. Afterward, he was like, what are you doing after this? I said, I don't know. I go travel for a little bit. He said, well, do you want to come, visit my production office? Do you want to come work for me? I was like, sure, why not? And then at the time he was like, yeah, I was signed to Columbia Artist Management, one of the biggest, agencies in the world. And then I was just nodding my head, even though I was like, I have no clue who Cami was at the time. I was like, I literally didn't know who they were. And I was like, sure. And then of course, like a week later, I was working for him. And that was it. And I was, I didn't know exactly what I was getting into, like, to be honest. I just knew it was still artist related. I went to a performing arts high school. I studied classical music, and I felt like I could at least use some of that knowledge, and some of the vocabulary were not going to be completely unfamiliar to me, right? Mm-hmm. And that's when it all switched. And that was how I ended up being and then from there, I ended up working for his manager at Cami. And then that was another whole, like awakening of like, what did I just get myself into? And so in a way, like half of my career was just sort of by chance, but you were thrown into it, and you had to learn new skills, but it was also skills that you used before to build on top of the new skills. And I think that, with the four of us having this conversation, it's also just to show people that it's about understanding who you are and what your skill sets are, and that you can really just build upon it, and not to close your mind off, right? Like not to close your mind off.
You are a good example of follow the flow. I think in these 2 years, I think this follow the flow concept affect me a lot, because whatever I'm not a planning person. I don't plan really for like 5 years, 3 years, but at least like last year when I the years before when I quitted the job, I was thinking to building another business with my boyfriend and partner in Myanmar. But then it comes to this COVID situation. Then we got stuck in Chiang Mai, and then for the all this past months, and then this is the example of follow the flow, and then it's like everything would come up naturally, and you just need to accept it and work on it. I think you what you just said is also an example of follow the flow.
Yeah.
Accept the job offer, go for it, and then here you are.
Yeah. And I think it also is just, in a way, I was able to find a balance, right, between just culturally, like, you just need to get a job. Like for my parents, it was like, just get a job. But then I knew I needed to get a job, but at the same time, I was very stubborn about doing something that I'm still interested in. I mean, that was the point where it was a clear cut that I had left the recording industry, right? Like when I started working for Tendon, that was it. That was like, no going back that way. But then even along these years of being an agent, and again, being an agent just was like by accident, right? It was not my choice. And I had to learn on, I'm sure like Phil, you also had to learn, like learning to be an agent, like that's just, it doesn't come naturally to you. And I think some people, it's very naturally to them, but for me, it isn't. And you don't learn this in school. So for me, it was like, I had to learn along the way, but then I also found the similarities, right? Because I was working with the artist, and just like when you were working in the recording industry and you're signing new artists and trying to develop them, that is in the same way, the similar path, being an agent and manager in the performing arts world. And, working with Cami or these big agencies or even smaller agencies, these two roles are always crossing paths with each other. But I think, and I think Phil and I, we share the same experiences, like working in the model in the US. We do get pulled into that model of this agent, and that very rigorous and very competitive too, right? How do you become the next agent, or how do you become the West Coast, the East Coast, the Midwest? Now you're becoming the national director, and now I'm sure a lot of agents in their mind, they're like, I want to now become, from an agent, I want to become a manager. And then this is like this constant like urge, or this constant, rush and competition to get to that next level. But for me, I always just felt like, let me just see how, I've always said, let me just take it as far as I can and see what happens. But then, I knew like about 5-6 years ago that I just didn't want to just be an agent, because I had all of these amazing experiences back in my recording industry days that I wanted to figure out, how am I going to be able to bring it all together? I think both worlds, there's a way for both worlds to coexist with each other. And that's when I thought about starting my own company. But, again, it was that fear of taking that first step, because that's when you wanted to, that is again, switching gears, right? And then you're like, I don't know, Phil, when you went from being from going into a real estate agent, like, what were the questions you were talking about in your head? Or like Jean, like you were of course forced to be in Chiang Mai, but then you decided not to continue what you were doing before. Instead, you were doing this. I mean, like for me, there were so many questions in my head that stopped me from doing it for 3 years, actually, almost like 4 years before I finally just said, the hell with it, and I went for it. So I'm curious, like from Phil and Jean's that
part of
process.
me, I'm a believer that in things happening for a reason, also when we can't find too much of an explanation.
Right.
So, and I've had to say this a lot about my own situation, not to be cliche, but real estate was something I thought about for years and years and years. So at this point, I have no other explanation but to say it wasn't meant to be back then.
Right.
It wasn't meant to be when I was in college, and like the only kid in our fraternity who's to drive around Pittsburgh talking about things like architecture and real estate and the market. Like, who did that? Who did that? It's been a long time, a fascination from at home and growing up, and my dad buying and renovating our homes and being by his side. I mean, I've totally been consumed with it in a personal interest way, at my own passion. But I talked myself out of it, or I mean, for one reason or another, I didn't do it. And so at this point, what answer can I give but it wasn't meant to be all those other times? And now it is. Yeah, I used the pandemic as a good reason because I took it as a sign. It was finally the perfect storm, so to speak, the right confluence of events, and circumstance. And so I'm sitting in this very apartment wondering, why don't you take this opportunity while you're sitting here at home? There's this online class. I mean, it truly started from like connecting dots. Yeah. You're at home with time. An online class sort of passed across my eyes. That brought up all areas of past interest and what have you. So I jumped in with the class and, it snowballed. Of course, I could go deeper in what was I thinking about the industry. Cindy, I think you're taking a chance was in having faith in having faith in your confidence in your ability to try out new things in the performing arts, whatever that looks like to you, without predefining what that is, like agency model, like you were speaking to before. I mean, I was sitting here, and part of what I'd have to admit is I wasn't willing to take that leap of faith anymore. I didn't feel I had any really great ideas for what was next. Maybe I didn't feel like I had the energy for it. So that was part of it for me too. That was a big part of it for me.
And that's okay.
I question what's happening in our industry. I was a presenter at the time, the person doing the programming at a classical music venue. And it's not that the place was going to shut down or going bankrupt, quite the opposite. Mm-hmm. I was just looking at the industry and my little place in it. Mm. And I don't know, it wasn't that exciting for me to look at some of what could be in another job. I was seeing, like you were saying before, same old, predetermined structure of places. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I just don't want to do that.
I have to say, I really like what you said also about connecting the dots, which led up to what you just said, because, and this is again going back to what we said earlier, this also takes courage, by the way. I think that COVID, or the whole, well, not COVID, the virus itself, but the whole time, I mean, I think this whole virus of what it did to companies, people, it brought a lot up to the surface, which was already there. Like, you know, like just taking a little restaurant in Berlin as an example. I mean, they don't exist anymore, but they were broke before COVID happened. COVID just actually speed up the process of them realizing, oh shit, we will not be able to survive. But we, you know, and I think a lot of people, I mean, everyone was forced to take a break, and everyone was forced to maybe even rethink their life. Even, you know, I didn't want to rethink my life really, but I have to say a lot of things that came across my mind and a lot of things I changed within the past 12 months were there long before. I just had never took the time to look at them, or I didn't took the time, I was too busy. So I like this kind idea of connecting dots where you go way before COVID, and then COVID just gave us space and time to rethink something. But what COVID also did is, I think it forced a lot of people to switch gears, because you have to, like Cindy said, or like you two said as well, we have to earn money. I mean, it's yes, we do what we want, but also we have flats, we have kids, we don't have kids, we want to eat, we want to drink, we want to do all the fun part, you know, and it costs some money. So Mike, I have a question, because I just thought about this. Do you think that there are any, like, switching gears, doing something new, is there any skill, or maybe skills, plural, you found that you didn't know about before? And I'm just asking this because I think it is scary to be forced to do things. Like, it is scary to be forced to change jobs, but maybe it would help to take, you know, the anxiety away a tiny little bit by saying, listen, it might be that you find something that you don't even know about now. So that's why I'm asking, did you experience, or did you find a skill, or did you experience something within yourself that you were not aware before you changed something? I mean, maybe it's a difficult question. Maybe not, I don't know. Yeah, sorry.
I think the skill you always know about it subconsciously.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. For example, I am quite good at like talking to people or managing people in the old company. But just that I'm too emotional sometimes, too many compassion for them. So then it gets stuck for myself, and then I get too into it. So I mean, all those skills you know already, but then you come to a point that because of COVID or because of when you can slow down to look into it, then you understand even more.
True.
Yeah,
very true.
It didn't happen to me just because of COVID, because I changed job like every 10 years, and sometimes I have a break in between time. I got the first job and then second job 10 years in concert. But then I also spent 1 year in those 10 years as a gap year to have a holiday in Australia. Then this is another like thinking process for me to think about, do I want to go back to concert or not, or would I be like doing even better or not? And then so I go back, and then another almost 10 years in events. Before that, in the between time, I went to be a barista in Starbucks. So every time it's like I didn't really get those fear as Cindy, because from time to time I have this like a break, and I quit the job without any backup choice. And every time it works for me. For me, it works every time. It's like I get a clearer picture what I want to do, and even I go back to the same job or working with the same person, I have a different perspective, or I change myself a little bit to like I adapt even better. So when COVID come, I have to say I'm actually quite ready for it.
That's great. Oh my God. So fantastic.
That's great. I've never heard someone saying this. Honestly,
I know.
I've never heard someone saying I was ready for COVID.
I know.
It sounds not so good.
No,
Not at all.
Actually, it sounds like totally. It sounds
It's
very,
so refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think it's kind of a coincidence. When I quit the job in year end of 2019, I was actually calculating all my. I'm working on my finance plan to see what if I wanted to like really don't do events anymore. I mean, for the company, I don't want to go back anymore. So can I survive for at least 1 or 2 years? So I work on the finance plan and then, okay, I allocate all the money to different places, and also because I need to bring some money back to the family as well. I prepare all this, and then when COVID hits, I was like, oh yeah, it is in my plan already. I didn't plan to have any income anyways, so COVID didn't really hit me.
But honestly, I so like what both of you said, because you said it didn't really hit you, and Phillip said it was actually giving him the chance to do something he was thinking about long time ago. So somehow it seems like for both of you, this whole COVID period brought something actually, I don't know, I mean, good. Yeah, something good. I mean,
well, like you're saying about the restaurant, it unfortunately it sped up things that were negative where they were negative. At the same time, things like this just happen this way. It shed light on things we were not looking at, which are overwhelmingly positive. The productivity factor we talked about a little bit in our quick chat yesterday. I mean, productivity is another thing corporations all over the world are talking about right now.
Yes.
You're seeing all sorts of news articles, no matter the industry. Even in our industry, in the arts, where, the thought of working from home remotely, I mean, whoever thought that wasn't a thing for so many people for so long.
Right.
Well, now they're seeing increased productivity. So now you can do whatever you want if the people at the top see increased productivity. I mean, what I wanted to add to what Jean was saying, and as a part of the answer to Jana's question, was I also agree that perhaps they were skills that were there all along, but had to be further examined or identified. I think about when you were talking, I couldn't help but think about in jobs that I've had, when I was going to get into the jobs, if and when someone else complains about things that you end up enjoying or aren't a frustration for you, that's what stuck out for me. And those are the things that I had to figure out when I was changing, especially making this kind of a transition or switching these gears. I remember back to waiting tables, and there are some people who say, oh God, I hated that, or oh, I could never do that. Well, I loved waiting tables. So I think about why. And that was one of the reasons that I knew, okay, it's not having a job in the arts that I necessarily need. I can be affiliated with the arts, or I need to find myself a job that I'm really happy about that affords me the ability to buy tickets to the things I want to see. But what I love is talking to people all day long. I like relationship building.
Right.
That's what drives me. Yeah. I like building business through interaction with people. So it didn't matter whether I was carrying plates to their table or having to call people every day to talk about artists I love, or now interacting with people all day long, be it on the phone or at beautiful homes in South Florida. But I'm talking to people, serving them in some capacity and building a relationship with them to create a business. Yes, the business, the product is something I care about. I never worked in a restaurant I didn't like. I never worked in one of the arts fields or for an arts company I didn't like. And now I'm not selling houses or working with people in real estate that I don't like per se. But I still had to boil it down to those more foundational, pieces of what was driving me.
Yeah.
There was another complaint that some people give about, and it sounds so small in real estate, but there were people who said to me, oh, we know what part of it, they could tell me what part I would like, but then they were talking about how, these things get tedious for me. All the data entry, actually, I remember someone told me that. All the paperwork, the data entry, things are so technology based right now. And oh, you have to learn all these web platforms. This one person said to me, well, guess what? That's another thing I happen to love. It might sound small to other people, but I love it. I mean, I spend so many hours just doing this minutia data entry, but I happen to really enjoy it. I'm a bit of a techie to a certain extent. I don't write software, but I like tech. I like using tech in ways that make business work and pleasure easier. So the things that frustrated a few other people and the complaints that they had, I love these little things.
But I think that is another chance hidden. Maybe it's not even hidden. I'm just saying.
That's what I mean.
In the title, switching gears, because when you let go, when you do jump from, when you don't go like one way through your whole life, like you're I don't know, whatever you are, and you're this forever, you do get to see and do things much more than, I mean, I was a dancer, I was an intern as a project manager for a company, I was a project manager senior, I did so many things I would have never thought about, like going back to what we were studying, or what I studied philosophy somewhere on the way, another non-profit, no money making anything,
right?
For me. But the thing is, I think if I look back now, I did so many things I would have never expected to do in my life. And the only reason why I did that was because I was switching gears. Yeah. Because I didn't, I could have become a dancer, dance until a certain point, stop dancing, become a ballet teacher, probably not a choreographer because I was not very talented in that part. So, but I didn't. And that is something I think, right. Even today, I do know so much more about myself by just trying things. And like you said, I found out that, this is a stupid example, and it's not about a job, but until a year ago, I was like, running is not for me. I hate running. Running is the most stupid. I mean, I admire everyone who does it because you take your shoes, you go wherever you want and you can run everywhere, but it's not for me. And then a year ago, all the studios closed, yoga, ballet, gyms, and I was like, shit. And I'm here to work physically, I have to do physical stuff, otherwise I become a pain in the ass to myself and everyone around me. This is not working for anyone if I don't move. So I started running. I was like, okay, shit. I downloaded an app, and there was this like 30 minutes in 30 days. So you would walk 1 minute, run 1 minute, walk 1 minute. And I felt so stupid. I thought, oh my God, if someone is looking at me, walking, running, walking for a minute, which is nothing. But for me, I was done. I was in muscle pain for 2 days, just doing 8 minutes, But the thing is, now I'm running about an hour, like 3 times a week. And this is completely, I was like, right? Yeah, I mean, for me, this is like one of the biggest it's like a world wonder or whatever. Yeah, I would have never thought I would say that, but the only reason I did it was because COVID came and I had to get out of my comfort zone and not only do yoga and ballet at home, which I do, but I needed to do I had to add something to feel better. And that meant, okay, again, switch gears, do something new, try something new, even though you thought it's shit.
Yeah.
And I love it. I really do. And I'm like the last person on planet Earth saying this.
Right. No, but I think all of us, I think what it is it, you know, our conversation is kind of bringing me back to reminding me of what our conversation 2 weeks ago when we had a therapist and a counselor, and Lily was saying, because, you know, we all were, I think in our business, we're slightly a little control freaks. I think we all have to be a little bit control freak in this business, right? In what we do.
Little.
Just a little. Yes, just a little. Just a little.
Make that big.
No,
Yeah.
just a little, right? And she says, you know, and the you know, the therapist was telling us, the counselor, she's like, you know what? I mean, it's needed. It's good. You have to think of recognize these characters as positives, because if we don't have it, we wouldn't be able to do our jobs.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, between like what Jean is doing, what you're doing, Phil, and all of this, I think all of us, we have certain characteristics that we have to recognize as positives, and that we have to use it towards as this is an opportunity that we can take it, you know, to wherever we want, and to exciting new opportunities or new phases and new chapters, and allow us to be uncomfortable. Because in a way, whatever we're doing in our business anyways, we're always uncomfortable. There's really never a comfortable moment. How comfortable is it for you to be there at work until 3 o'clock in the morning? That is just not normal, or, you know, comfortable in any means, right? Or we go to these performances and we stay up late and having drinks. It's all fun and game, but it's not how, you know, most of the normal world works. So I think in a way we're already used to being uncomfortable. And like what Jana was saying, I think it just dug up a lot of all of these things that we're able to handle, that allow us to apply to other areas, and also allow us to know more about who we are as a person, and that we're in a way, it's like, it's kind of exciting because we live a much more meaningful life, because we're able to recognize what our skill sets can be used for. And not like, you know, I mean, not like you see other people, they just clocking 9 to 5, where we talk about, like, do you love your job? Like, do you do it because I just need a paycheck, and because I'm trained, or I studied and I'm good at it, versus like, okay, yes, even though we're not, you know, you break down the hours and the pay, it's completely not equal, but we get up in the morning, and that gives us that motivation that there's something behind that job, or we're going to something that fuels us. And I think that carries us into even now what you're doing, Phil, and what you're doing, Jean, you know, which to me, I think is, you know, I wanted to really share with our industry, like, you know, because we see people in every little pockets of our world that they have to be. And I'm sure, like, Jean, you know, you probably, where you left the events company, people have been just doing events for so long that they don't know that there could be other possibilities. Or like even in our agency world, like all they know is being an agent, and they just keep jumping from one agency to another agency, and then wherever they go, they would complain, you know, after a while, then they start complaining about the same thing again. Right?
You have a very good point, because the last year, I think for the first time of my life to meet so many different people and different normal people.
Normal people.
Like, I met a nurse, a retired engineer, a restaurant owner, all different kinds of occupations, which I am amazed by myself, because I'm only in this entertainment and events all the time. I just talk to these people and have happy hour, drinking and talking, and then, oh, well, some people don't drink, and some people like getting up at 6 a.m. and then went to bed at 9. Oh, it's quite a new experience to me. I think because you just like, you always meet the similar people in your industry.
Well, we are all in a bubble.
Yeah, it's a bubble.
Yeah. Exactly. So it is but quite stupid for me. Like, it's like, oh, it's like a whole brand new experience for me. Yeah, and like listen to some different topics other than what we did.
Yeah. Right.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, like talking of like meeting normal people, I realized, I mean, my business, all our business it literally shut down a year ago, more or less. But I just realized a few weeks ago that there are people out there working, and nothing really changed except for they cannot go out. They couldn't go out for, you know, they couldn't go out into a restaurant or a bar or maybe meet people, like the private stuff. But their work life went on.
Never changed.
Never changed. Exactly. Totally.
Oh my God. Because for me, like, and everyone around me, everything is completely upside down. The world changed 180 degrees. All of a sudden, we sit at home, we read books, we do things, and actually, we're the small group. We are like the we're like the little bubble. Everyone else is actually not influenced work-wise. No, I mean not healthy. I mean not health-wise. I don't mean private life, but. And for me, that was like, oh my God. And it took me half a year to realize that, to be honest. Right. Because I am surrounded by people who are in the same situation as me. Like,
exactly.
Almost everyone.
Exactly. We do. We live in our own little bubble. And then I talk to my, yeah, totally. I talk to my sister.
And because of our working hours, and we constantly traveling. So actually, we don't really meet those friends, those normal people friends. By the time you get off the job, it's already they went to bed already.
I know.
Yeah, but also the traveling part, I have to say. I said this in a group of, we were invited for dinner, and it was, besides for me and my partner, we were both, he's a musician, so we were both in the same boat. Everyone was from the normal job. And I said, oh, I miss traveling so much. But I meant work-wise. I mean, I meant what Phillip said. People networking, working outside. And everyone at the table was like, oh yes, me too. And the holidays and going to the beach. And I was like, no, that's not what I meant.
I mean, that's not what we mean.
No, I don't mean going to the beach or going skiing. I mean working, you know, going to arts festivals, going to
conferences, you know,
outside of Germany. I mean, doing productions at all, first of all, but then also outside of Germany. And I realized this is such a huge difference, which never occurred to me. For me, this was normal. It's normal to, like, work is connected to travel. Working is traveling. And for them, traveling is holidays. This is a complete different world. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. Yeah, no, I don't mean holidays.
Exactly.
It is interesting. And it took me, again, I went home and I thought, it's me and a few people. Actually, the majority of people is, you know, like, we are the, like, the little group.
Right.
It's not very common, actually.
But curious though, because we travel so much for work, how does it affect you, like when you actually try to carve out time for travel? Because this is something that I get complained a lot about, because there's never a moment when I am not, even when I'm traveling with my family, I'm always thinking, is there someone I need to meet and have a meeting with?
I'm the absolute, I can never go on a holiday just holidaying. No.
Yes. Oh no. I don't know. Did that ever happen to you, Phillip?
Accept that. I mean, you have to accept that. That's a part of who you are.
Yeah.
Like I have never gone to a place where I absolutely met nobody. Like even I was like, we were in Georgia, right? Like not the state Georgia, the country Georgia.
Oh.
And yeah, the country.
For me,
I
would be like, why
yeah.
would I go somewhere? I mean, first of all, going to the beach, I'm bored after 3 days. That's it. I'm like, yeah, been here, done that. Been swimming, been lying here. I have to do something. And for me, it's also, I don't know. I'm the same.
Like even going to Georgia, right? I even was able to meet up with the theater presenter.
Oh, yeah, you can always meet you just Google, you just go like,
no, but it was just like, it's never in the back of my mind. I'm just like, it's that, like, I think Phil, you mentioned this, like there's always someone you can be talking to. There's always someone you can be networking. And then somehow I think it may have been just instilled in our blood, or either from training or just whatever it is. It's just already like injected in us.
It may be some of that, but part of it is also who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like having to find a compromise in a relationship. I mean, you could say to your husband, yeah, of course, I'm going to commit to trying to not do as much of that.
Right.
I need you to also meet me halfway. And that is understanding that a lot of times, this is what drives me. I enjoy this.
Right.
I love it. I want to have a drink with a colleague. I want to meet someone at a hall. If I know an artist lives somewhere, I'm not sitting down with them doing tour planning. I might just want to have a drink with them. Like, I used to say that I brought all my work home with me, and I never had any division between my work-life balance, just this like sweeping statement. And I think it was in a conversation with my mom that she was like, there's a certain part of that you've got to understand is just built into you. Maybe you're doing work right now that's not fulfilling you. And you've got to reprioritize, re-examine, what it is that fulfills you, and then decide on priority, whatever it looks like. But recognize that that's in your DNA. She was saying, you bring your work home with you. You love to look at work at night.
Wise mom.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not going to just stop randomly looking at your email or not respond to a text if and when it's urgent. If it's not, I agree, we can let everything wait on a Saturday or Sunday, but that when I want to, that's a part of me. And, she was like, you're the kind of person who mixes business and pleasure all the time, and that's okay. No, you don't take a vacation by definition the way some people do, but you go multiple places per year and never stop working when you're in those other places. So what's the give and take there? Right. Who's to say which hours you worked were more important? Right. You've got to accept that that's who you are. That's the way you choose to work.
But just
do your life.
I totally agree with your mom, by the way. Very wise woman. And I just wanted to say, or add one thing. I think going back to switching gears. I mean, switching gears also says that you have more than one talent. It means that you have more than one thing you want to do in life. Either you know it or you don't. I think intuitively, like as Jean said earlier, you do know it's there already. Sometimes it's just unconsciously. Yeah. But that's the thing, having more than one talent, or having that is so you just follow that gap, not gap, you just follow that path. And it's true what she says, if that wouldn't be you, you wouldn't do it. You would just switch off your phone and go, fuck off, I don't give a shit. But then you would obviously not work in this business, because this business requires you checking your phone every 10 minutes at least.
Right.
Actually, we all have a watch now, and we're now, it's again, it's different. So, but this is, I think it's true. It's like, actually, we're all where we are and where we should be. And even and even the switching part is part of who we are, because we wouldn't switch. We would not switch. We would not even think about doing something else. We would not even, like, I know people who would never, ever do something else. They will work and they will stop working, and then they will retire and they will, I don't know, start gardening or do whatever they do. They it never occurs to them. Whereas me, I'm already like, what can I do next? Where can I go next? What's the next thing to come? I'm curious. I don't know, because I'm completely fine and happy where I am right now. But I am already curious, because somehow it feels there is something out there I haven't discovered yet.
Right.
And I know I'll be scared to death when it comes knocking on my door saying, oh, hello, now you're speaking again. And I'll be like, oh no, but it's good. It's jumping again.
It's true. And I think even just, the next phase. So, I mean, now that you've all took this big step to do something completely different, have you thought about, well, what's after this? Because for me, the big leap of faith was starting my own company. And then, of course, again, I think we were forced to stop. But then even for me, I never had any expectation of what would look like 2 or 3 or 5 years down the road. But I always knew that I did it because I want to do things my way. And then that if I were to close my company tomorrow, I'm going to be actually completely okay with it. Even though if that day comes, I'm sure I'll freak out, but I think I will be okay with it. I went into it knowing that if it didn't work out, it's going to be okay. And I'm curious, like, did you go into this thinking, well, how long will I do this for? Or how long will inbound last? Or how long, I mean, and again, maybe our DNA will again just tell us, maybe it's in our DNA that we will just do this and take this as far as we can until the next thing the next things come knocking.
I will just answer very quickly, because my answer is really short. It's exactly what you said. I don't know. I will just go until I feel I have to. If something appears, I will switch. But for now, I don't. I just go.
Well, because now we have this brand, you have this question, do I think about how long would it be? I wouldn't think about it. And I guess the brand inbound is more like a platform. Instead of like selling products like one by one, I think it's more like a platform to connect to different people. And because I have this chance to stay in this country, this city for so long, I am very happy to spend more time to like discover more about it. I don't think I really have chance to discover Shanghai or even my hometown, Hong Kong. I really not know it in depth. So on the other hand, I have this chance to know more about Chiang Mai. It's a great chance. So hopefully working through this like project or this brand, then I can work on more different projects. Not just about product.
Right.
Yeah, maybe some documentary or some crossover brands with different people.
So she's already seeing the next possibilities, which is so great. It's so exciting.
Yeah.
Phil, what about you? I mean, it's so brand new for you.
It's brand new. Also, for as type A as I can be, I'm just not a planner like that far out.
Yeah.
I just go where it takes me.
Yeah.
I have full faith in myself. If it didn't work out, I know I'd figure something else out. There's nothing that's ever beneath me. I mean, I'll wait tables again if I have to. If the bottom fell out, all of a sudden I'd go back to doing something else. So no, I have faith that I'll be successful in this, not just because the real estate market is great, but because I've always been passionate in it, and I've always done well when I've committed myself in areas where I'm passionate. Like I said, it was food service, retail, artist management, and arts administration, and now in real estate.
It's, I think this is such a great way to just highlight that it's really about just keeping an open mind and not to be scared, because both, I think between Phil and Jean, it's to really share with people that you have to keep an open mind. You have to not be afraid, which is easier, of course, said than done. But you have to allow yourself to feel that process of being afraid and to feel that challenge. And I think it's also, we mentioned so many words that it's connecting the dots. It's going with the flow. It's also about knowing yourself, and that it's all going to be okay at the end of the day. Because I also believe this, and Phil, you mentioned this, is like everything do happen for a reason. I do really firmly believe that. So it's, it is so great to have both of you on today to share with us your experiences, because it's, it does give us hope. Because when Jana and I started this, we wanted to highlight really not the macro. We tell all our guests, we're not here to save the world. Like, that is not what we're trying to do. But I want to have these conversations so that it will maybe give a little bit of a insight for other people that they can take away with, that maybe they didn't think about. That will alter, they can go back and say, well, you know what, Phil just gave me some idea. Why didn't I try it? Or Jean said, or something that you said, Jean, that, well, now I could start something. I can be brave. Just go with the flow. And that's the purpose of our conversation. So really, thank you. I mean, I don't know, Jana, I also just came up with, I always walk away from listening to all our guests with so many different inspirations.
Me too.
And that's our goal, really.
Me too. And I can totally underline everything you said like 10 million times. And it's so, I just want to add one thing and just add, it's so inspiring, because I think a lot of people do, the whole COVID time is a challenge, especially coming from our sector, like from the artist world, let's say, not even being an artist. And for me, I mean, thankfully, I was not forced to switch my job or to switch gears right now. I can still choose to do that whenever I feel like doing it. I was really lucky, and I'm really happy. I did change a few things, but in general, I didn't have to. But I think it's totally inspiring to listen to both of you, to your stories, and also to your way of looking at things.
Yes.
To see that, as Cindy said, it is a challenge, but the challenge bears so much opportunity, and it always brings you back to yourself, because there's never a path which has nothing to do with you. You don't have to go somewhere where you don't belong. It's always part of your journey. By the end of the day, we will all sit down next year. This is what we keep doing somehow. Like, I don't know, and I want to do this here as well, that we say, let's meet in a year and see where we are, where it brought us, because we're still, like, the pandemic, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood a million times, it's kind of slightly going towards its end, but it would be totally interesting to see and hear where you are in a year from now.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, it's...
Yes, we should totally do it. We should totally do it. Yes.
And I think it's really, really, it was so interesting to listen to both of you and to hear like you're so honest about where you are, who you are, your anxieties, but also about saying, yeah, but that's how it is, and let's go for it. And that's absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. And then finally, you know, we travel so much for our work. And now, of course, so I wanted to, you know, we started this last time, but we wanted to end with all asking our guests, like, so if you can actually get on a plane now, where would you want to go?
Middle East.
One of the guests said that last time too.
Can you prepare some drinks? Huh?
Yeah.
We'll make sure. Yes, I'll make the arrangements. I'll make the arrangements. Phil.
I shouldn't overcomplicate it. Why do you say if you could get on a plane? I mean, we can kind of get on planes, can't we? No.
Well, you can't just freely go to anywhere.
If I could go, okay, fine, you're right. Yeah, I would really like to go to Asia and finally see a friend I haven't seen in a really long time. But I haven't been to New York through this whole thing. And that's like my heart. That's a part of me. That's my network. So I kind of, part of me just wants to be in New York too.
I'll be there in 2 weeks. Come look for me.
Oh.
I'm waiting for you there. I'll wait for you in New York.
I wish I could.
It was on top of my list last time. It's still on, but I Googled flights yesterday. And I was so surprised because it's so cheap. I think no one wants to really travel. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was surprised. I was like, oh my God. And I just connected with a friend this morning saying, let's go. Why not go to New York?
You were looking to go where?
To New York.
Oh,
I want to go to New York. Okay. I totally want to go to New York. This is
I'm there. I'm there this summer. Come. Come. I'm waiting for you all in New York and in the Middle East.
Oh, we can have drinks in New York.
In New York.
I'll be there until the beginning of August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a solid time. It's a solid time. Yes. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yep. But thank you. Thank you all. It was so fun.
This was amazing. Thanks for inviting me.
I love all the honesty, the frankness. You know, it was so fun. And, you know, let's try to get together again, you know, in a year. I love to see. Yes, thank you. And thank you everyone today for watching. And we will see you in 2 weeks for our next episode. So take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.